it's German, but again, it doesn't look that way in English. It looks like go with they or go with thee or whatever, but it's pronounced Goethe. And as we've seen from the materials, the story of Faust is not original to Goethe. He didn't invent the character, he didn't invent the story, but he attempted to do something here fairly dramatic with the story, to take a character who throughout most of his history has basically been held up as a cautionary tale. Here's what happens when you mess with the devil. Here's what happens when you sell out your soul for anything. Instead, here it's played for a much different effect. Okay? Now, this prologue, which is where we're going to begin, the prologue is actually the prologue for both part 1 and part 2 of Faust. So this is the setup for both parts, many pages, and in fact, if you look at Goethe's life and how much time he worked on this, this was the prologue for many years of his life's work. And it begins, just as in the Book of Job, there are a lot of parallels here to the first part of the Book of Job. It begins with an assembly in heaven, in which angels and the heavenly host are singing God's praises and singing of the glory of his creation. And if you notice, there's a phrase that pops up several times in this. For example, as Raphael ends his song, he says, "is glorious as on the first day," which is something that the heavenly host repeats throughout. Is glorious as on the first day. Everything is as glorious as God built it on the first day. Everything is the way God intended it to be. Now, that's a statement that we have seen before in some of the other works that we've looked at this semester. But what's interesting here, and it kind of plays the same way in the Book of Job, is that immediately after that, who walks onto the stage? Well, Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles, Satan, right? So it's a little strange that here the heavenly host singing, everything is the way it was on the first day. Everything is the way God intended it to be. When Satan walks out, and Satan on the first day was one of the 3 archangels according to traditional Christian cosmology. He had not yet fallen. But what this tells us is that the fall of Lucifer, the archangel Lucifer, and the rise of Satan was part of God's plan. And here the angels singing, everything is the way God has intended it to be, and then suddenly who walks out on stage? Very boldly and sarcastically, our friend Mephistopheles, who is if not Satan himself, he's certainly a version of Satan. And if you notice, he comes out and he starts speaking in line 29, and he basically says, "Oh, it's good to see you. Yeah, I remember when we used to talk. You know, everybody here seems so happy. Oh, by the way, my pathos were sure to make you laugh. We're laughing, not a habit you've unlearned," he says to God. "Of suns and worlds I know nothing to say. I only see how men live in dismay." So it doesn't take him very long to get to what for him is the heart of the matter, which is mankind and how horrible he is. "I only see how men live in dismay. The small God of the world will never change his ways, and is as whimsical as on the first of days. He's just as screwed up today as the first day you made him," in other words. "His life might be a bit more fun had you not given him that spark of heaven's sun. He calls it reason and employs it, resolute, to be more brutish than is any brute. You gave him, God," he says, "this wonderful gift of reason, and he uses it to be more brutal than any brute." So instead of using reason to create healing and medicine and wonderful inventions, which we do, we also use it to create better ways to hurt people, better ways to kill people, more efficient ways to kill people, which we kind of also do as well. "He seems to me, if you don't mind, your grace, like a cicada of the long-legged race that always flies and flying springs, and in the grass the same old ditty sings. If only it were grass he could repose in, there is no trash he will not poke his nose in." There's his commentary on the human race. We're like grasshoppers, right? You know, we're along in the grass, and every once in a while we take loose, and we fly, and we seem so pretty and noble, and then pretty soon we're right back in the same old crap that we flew out of. Now notice what the Lord says to him though. Notice his greeting. Can you not speak but to abuse? Do you come only to accuse? The Greek term diabolos, right, from which we get devil, refers to accusing, right? And one of the roles that Satan always plays, whatever name he walks under, is he is the accuser. He is the one who's always pointing out the flaws of mankind. He is the guy who always has a long memory when it comes to the things that humanity has screwed up. In fact, one of the things that Faust does here, that one of the ways to think of this first prologue, is it's sort of like it's like a courtroom. And in the courtroom, of course, God is the judge. Satan, in the form of Mephistopheles, is the district attorney. He is the accuser. He is the one who has a list of all the things we've done wrong, when we did them, how bad they were. He's got all the evidence to prove that we should be damned. But of course, to carry out the courtroom metaphor, there is someone who's our defense attorney, right? And that defense attorney is there to make intercession on our behalf. Who's to say, yes, they did these bad things, yes, but right, they accepted my sacrifice, and therefore they should be saved. So thankfully, we have Jesus as our defense attorney to battle against the prosecutor. Now, in this, notice, just as in the book of Job, it is the Lord himself who brings up the subject of a particular human being. God brings up the subject of Job. The Lord in this scene says, do you know Faust? Mephistopheles says, the doctor? Ah, my servant. Lo, he serves you most peculiarly, I think. In other words, the devil's saying, really? He's really one of your servants? He's kind of an odd guy. He's into some weird things. He's not your typical good guy, right? Is he really your servant? And the Lord says, though now he serves me but confusedly, I shall soon lead him where the vapor clears. The gardener knows, however small the tree, that bloom and fruit adorn its later years. I know, God says, where he's headed and what he will eventually do. Now, it's Mephistopheles that wants to turn this into a bet. So a little friendly wager, right? What will you bet? You'll lose him yet to me if you will graciously connive that I may lead him carefully. And God says, as long as he may be alive, so long you shall not be prevented. As long as, in other words, as long as you don't kill him, you can do whatever you want to try to destroy him. Right? You can tempt him however you want, as long as you don't kill him. Which, if you think of the parallels with the book of Job, right? Remember what Satan says in that book. He says basically to God, yeah, Job's a good man, but Job serves you because you have built a hedge around him. You protect him, right? That's the only reason why he serves you. And if you take the hedge away, then I'll get him to curse you. If you let me at him, I'll get him to curse you. And God basically in the book of Job makes the same deal. Okay, I'll take away the hedge. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't kill him. And the end result is the same, right? The Lord says, man errs as long as he will strive. As long as people try, they will make mistakes, but the Lord has faith in the end that we will come to the light, that will come to salvation. Mephistopheles has no problem because he's not interested in the dead. He says, I far prefer full cheeks, a youthful curly head. When corpses come, I have just left the house. I feel as does the cat about the mouse. So if you think of Mephistopheles and compare him to a cat playing with a mouse, you know, he has no interest if the mouse is dead. He wants to torment the mouse, right? He's interested in the mouse while he's alive. Same with Mephistopheles. He likes to torment humans while they're alive. Once they're dead, their eternal fate is decided and he has no interest anymore. And the Lord says, okay, enough, I grant that you may try to clasp him, withdraw his spirit from its primal source, and lead him down, if you can grasp him, upon your own abysmal course. and stand abashed when you have to attest. A good man in his darkling aspiration remembers the right road throughout his quest. In the end, he says to Mephistopheles, you will have to admit that people know the right road, that good is the natural state of mankind. Because what you have set up here in the prologue, which carries through all the rest of the work, is there's a picture of good being associated with creativity, being associated with hope, being associated with love, being associated with continuing to try, never quitting, never giving in, right? Never feeling satisfied, always wanting to do more, see more. And then evil in the form of Mephistopheles, which is about destruction and accusation and not doing anything because something bad might happen, because you could fail, so therefore, why start? In fact, Mephistopheles says at one point, he says very honestly, it would be better if nothing began at all. So you have good, creative, love, right? You have bad, which is evil, which is destruction, hurtfulness, accusation, and then you have mankind stuck in the middle between those two things. Given a choice, do we serve the side of good, the side of creativity, or do we serve the Lord of destruction?